Welcome back to my channel. First off, let me clear the air. This video is not about judging the waistlines of super slim or anorexic women such as in this image, but it will give us a jumping off point for today's main topic. Just hang in there. Many years ago, I recalled reading about how anorexic women interpreted images of their own bodies. It wasn't that they saw themselves as they really looked and just wanted to be even skinnier as a preference. No, their brains saw them as chubby when they were really a walking coat hanger. Yet, weirdly, they could look at pictures of other women and accurately describe them. Regardless, the key point is that anorexic women are literally seeing something that isn't true. And it only seems to happen when viewing their own body, but doesn't happen when seeing someone else's body. Weird, right? Now, suppose an anorexic friend told you she wanted to lose weight and was going to get diet pills. What do you say? Agree with her? A lot of women actually die from anorexia. Sure, it's an uncomfortable position to be in to have a friend making a claim that defies reality. It's almost like a man's discomfort when a wife asks her husband if a new dress makes her look fat. But I doubt a friend would actually encourage an anorexic woman to lose more weight. And doctors? If one of these ladies asked for diet pills, any doctor worth a stethoscope would say, let's talk therapy, not pills. Such women need help because their brains are, in this specific area, totally screwed up. Anyway, all this is a lead up to my main topic. What about these men and women who claim they were born in the wrong body and want to transition to the opposite sex? Well, it seems to be much the same situation to me. Regardless of what their mind tells them, biologically they are male or female from conception. Oh, I know there are intersex people, but they are such a small percentage of the population that we can omit them from this discussion. I have no problem if, for example, a man feels like a woman. Maybe he just likes feminine things and confuses that with being a woman. Or maybe he really does feel he's a woman. Doesn't really matter much to me. But when they insist that I agree that they are something they aren't, to the point where a person can lose their job for not agreeing, that simply is not acceptable. Just as an anorexic woman shouldn't be able to force anyone to agree that she is actually fat, or have a doctor lose his license if he won't prescribe diet pills. Now, someone is bound to say that sex and gender are different things, but I'm sorry, that won't hold up. Consider what this trans woman says.
Like this idea that oh, you're not a biological woman. Well, I am a woman, that's a fact. I am female, so all my identity records, my racing license, my medical records all say female, right? And I'm pretty sure I'm made of biological stuff, so I'm a biological female as well.
Notice the convoluted argument he makes, but also how it confirms my point that even most trans people think that gender and sex are the same thing in practice. He starts with a declaration that he is a woman and also declares that's a fact, which is just an attempt to rig the debate by skipping over all the legitimate arguments that can be made against it. It's just easier to ignore them than to try to counter them. Then he jumps to the claim that he is female, so, just like that, he has made gender and sex the same thing, as I have always said. Then he claims that because he is made of biological stuff, that makes him a biological female. Newsflash, a drone ant is also made of biological stuff, but it isn't a female. However, he once again confirms that gender and sex are the same thing to transgenders. Let's see the response of another man directly to that clip.
He claims to be not just a woman, but a female, proving yet again that the gender versus sex distinction, as I have been saying for years, which was invented by trans ideologues, has now been officially abandoned by those same ideologues. Gender is sex, sex is gender. They draw no distinction between those two.
It isn't just one trans person treating gender and sex the same. As I've said before, those trans women who want to be able to compete in sports against biological women are all treating gender and sex as the same thing. If they truly viewed sex and gender as different things, they couldn't argue that they'd be allowed to compete against biological women. Why? Because when society created separate teams for women, no one said, we need separate sports for females and the men who think they are women, because people who think they are women can't physically compete with men in sports. No, the whole reason for women's sports is because biological women can't physically compete with men in most sports. Thus, most, but not all, trans people do treat gender and sex as being the same thing, regardless of their word games. And so do most of those who aren't trans but support supposed trans rights, at the expense of real women. They are playing a bogus word game to mislead people. By the way, I can respect the trans person who says trans men should not be able to compete against women. At least they aren't just being completely loony. Anyway, we end up with a male swimmer who ranked lower than 400th against other males, but won a national championship against women. Furthermore, he still had his original equipment and was allowed in the girls' locker room.
What the hell is that guy doing in the locker room?
The girls were told if they didn't like it, they could go change elsewhere. That is insane.
If it's his interest versus the interest of 20 girls, he has to be narcissistic and self-centered to the core to put himself first.
I use the anorexic example to more clearly show the logic of my position, but it isn't the only one.
So what is a woman?
What is a woman is whatever you want to be.
So anyone can be a woman?
Yeah.
Words are meaningless when something can mean anything, but that's deliberate to create confusion. But let's continue.
If I wear a disguise or a costume, do I become that thing? For example, if I dress with a sombrero and start talking with a Mexican accent, do I then become that culture?
No, because that's different race.
Okay,
That's
but then wait,
very different.
why? How is it different? Because you're saying that if you dress a certain way and you present a certain way, you can be as you think you are. Why can't I also just choose what culture I am?
Because you're born within a culture, you're born with.
But you were born as a man.
It's truly amazing to see the contortions trans activists have to go through. You can change your sex just by believing you are a different sex, but you can't change your culture the same way? It's especially amusing that they say you are born with a certain culture, but ignore the fact they were born as a certain biological sex. This inconsistent logic applies in other examples as well. Listen to this one. Some of the words are hard to hear, but you can read the words on screen.
Can I be a bobcat?
If you want to identify as a bobcat, then I will support you.
Can I be a black person?
I don't know about that. That's not really true.
So he has no problem with supporting a human being if they claim to be a bobcat. But note that he holds back on the issue of whether a white person can consider themselves as black. And his excuse is funny since he says that race isn't about gender. Well, another news flash. The difference between a bobcat and a human isn't about gender either, but he was fine with that. Another excuse I've seen trans activists use to deny someone calling themselves black if they really aren't is to say, you obviously aren't black. And? That's kind of the point. If you are male, you aren't female. Men and women are different, more than the difference between someone who is black and someone who is white. Removing parts of a body doesn't change your sex either. So why is it these activists will allow for sexual change or even allow for a human to declare they're really a bobcat or other animal, but when it comes to race or culture, they consistently say that's not allowed? Because people would instantly call it cultural appropriation, which is a very big deal with the control freaks, the same people who insist everyone must deny biology and agree with the self-serving opinion of many in the trans community. But a guy saying he's a woman, suddenly biology's out the window and woman means whatever you want. If words can mean anything, they mean nothing. Go ahead, dress like a diva, love what you love, believe you're a unicorn if that makes you happy. But don't make me salute your sparkly horn or face a guillotine for sticking to science. No one is obligated to agree with something that is scientifically untrue. Thanks for watching, and don't let the trolls stop you from speaking out.